I've been thinking about opportunity cost, and maybe because they teach about that in economics class, but
Yeah.
not so much like more of like opportunity costs with little things like opportunity cost of um, and this actually ties in with the second headline. What is your time worth? So opportunity cost of like going to find yourself some soap. So I just moved to Europe. I want to get my ivory soap, but they don't sell ivory soap in Europe. What do I do? I can go on Amazon and I can figure out like where's the cheapest one that has maybe under $10 shipping, so that I can use this website to get free shipping and use this website to get cash back, or I can you know scour through Reddit and look for like alternatives to ivory soap. Maybe it's like the same ingredients in the other one. And it's just
Yeah.
like so much like what I want to do is I want to have a service where I can just say, okay, look, I have my list right here. I need ivory soap. I need some light bulbs that fit this criteria, right? I need like blue light, or not blue light, like yellow light, so that doesn't have blue light in it, so that I can sleep
Mm.
well at night. I need like a knife block, like whatever, all these things. And I want to just
Yeah.
say, here it is, here's my criteria. I want to send it off, be like, I'll pay you plus 10%, whatever it is. You order it
Mm.
for me, whatever, just let me know when it's coming. I don't want to have
Yeah.
to worry about emails in my inbox. I don't want to have to worry about all that.
Yeah.
So I think there's like, what kid wouldn't want to, ordering stuff is just fun for
Yeah.
some people,
Totally.
but if you have the time, right? So I think this
Totally.
is something that should be,
Dude.
like kids could be doing this.
Yeah, totally. I think that's good. I think that's a good idea. I've thought about this too because I'm like a serial researcher. Like, as in any product I buy, even if it's like I buy a new notebook, like I will literally spend like probably 2 hours. Like, what is the best notebook? Why? Like, what's the best paper? Like, whatever. And I've thought about this plenty of times because I'm like, man, like I could have bought a really nice notebook. If I would have just paid like $100, which is probably what my time is worth, like, yeah. But that's
Yeah,
a good idea. I like that.
yeah. Only maybe thing is like people having access to your card. So maybe it's like, they send you the last link, and then whatever. We're creating this service, we create a thing where they put everything in your cart, and then all you have to do is click like the put in the payment details at the very end, but like they do everything
Yeah,
up to that. So I don't know. I
yeah.
think I think yeah, major opportunity there.
I think so too. I think
All
the
right.
one other like possible flaw I see is like when people get picky, like if maybe you pick an item that like maybe matches a criteria, but like is not what you actually wanted. Like I'm sure that happened a good amount.
Yeah, I think this is maybe best for like simple things like ivory soap. Like, just get me the normal version, right? Like maybe if it's like a mirror that would look nice in my house, that gets
Yeah,
into the kind of like design, like personal side.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
but I think there's a space for this.
for
All
sure.
right,
That's a
what
good
do you
point.
have?
Okay, I've got a company. Have you heard of Footbin? Sorry, let me backtrack. Have you heard of FIFA, like the video game?
FIFA. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, cool. So FIFA is just like a soccer video game on Xbox or whatever. And basically, inside FIFA, there's a game mode called Ultimate Team. It's basically where you build like a team based on, I don't know, you can build it based on whatever. But within this team, in order for the team to perform well, every player has to have like good chemistry. And what that means is I need to have a certain amount of players from a specific league or a specific
Mm,
country or whatever in order to link, right? And that's the only way they're going to perform well in the game. So Ultimate Team is like a massive. I think it's EA's highest performing like game they have. Period. And so one thing like this app was developed called Footbin, and Footbin basically has like it's called a squad builder, and it's where you can like create your own squad with the actual FIFA cards to figure out like what chemistry works best. And it also has like a marketplace. So in order to get these players in FIFA, you have to either like buy packs in which you can pay real money for, or you can spend like the coins you've earned to buy these on like the real marketplace where people are actually
right.
listing players, right? And Footbin has like an automatically updating marketplace. So it's a super cool app. I think they have like 9 million monthly users. But this like pretty basic idea, this company, they sold the app for like 105 million euros like 6 months ago. Is that nuts?
Who bought it?
Actually, I don't know. I haven't researched who bought it. It was just some random company, but I just thought that was crazy
Wow.
because it's like an app I've used in the past, and I'm like, what a basic idea. Because like I've thought plenty of times before that even came out, like, oh, I wish there's a resource where I could just look up player prices or like figure out what chemistry works best. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it was just some guy who probably played FIFA that created the app and sold it for 105 million.
If you die right now, are there some accounts that you have money in or passwords that no one will ever get into?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Right? So, I think you can already kind of see where this is going, but basically the idea is, I should have linked it here, but the idea is, a place where you can put all of that information. And so then if you die, if you're father of a family, right? If you die, you're screwed, right? If like, who knows where the life insurance is? What's the life insurance policy number? How do I even find that? Right? Like all these things that, when your family's gonna be grieving, like you don't want them to be dealing with that. You want them to be, uh, you know, doing what actually matters. So, okay, this
Totally.
company is called trustworthy.com. So
Okay.
you can look it up. And basically they'll store your jewelry, so all of your jewelry information, your car, like numbers, insurance, any birth certificates, passports, all of that stuff, right? It's all in there. Your passports for your bank accounts, where you have all this stuff invested, etc. Right? So uh, you can already see how important this is. It's just a matter of like you got to get the people to pay for it. So I did a little bit of research. Basically, this guy is called Nat Robinson, which kind of sounded familiar, but he's not a first-time founder. He's been doing apps and all this, or websites, like, for a while. But I think this was like a really solid hit for him. So they raised only 5 million in September of 2020, and
Okay.
then in March of this year they raised another 15 million. So I think they're doing pretty good. Their best estimate is they're like 20 employees or less.
Dang.
um, and yeah, let's see. Last note is they have two pricing options. So either do the 240 annually or 480 annually. So I would
Okay.
guess 80%, are on the 240, but I couldn't find any details on how many customers they had.
Okay. Wow, dude, that's super interesting. I think that's a great idea. I mean, they must like they've got to have. I bet the majority of their spending is just like on the security type stuff. 'Cause,
Yeah,
people are so weird about that kind of stuff. Wow, that's crazy.
true. Yeah, yeah. I'd be curious to see exactly how they encrypted. I know they had something on the website, but I don't understand the
Yeah,
encrypting
dude,
stuff.
I'm looking through it right now. They've got all these like acronyms that I just have no idea what it means. That's a
Yeah,
really cool idea though. I like that a lot.
yeah,
I mean, think about like you and I we probably both have like accounts with like a little bit of money, but like not a big deal. But think about like adults or even like just like high net worth
yeah,
people who just have random accounts with random amounts of money. I'm sure so much money is lost through that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That'd
yeah.
be something cool that'd be something cool to research. Like what happens to that money? Like what happens to money that's left in like an investment account that's just never touched?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like, why don't they have like a bigger tier, right? Like 480 a month or a year, like that's pretty low for people who are, like the big players, right?
Yeah,
And I guess
totally.
I was thinking like they probably have some lawyer or agent who's collected all that stuff and like has everything
Rate my
when
professor or stock market.
to do the stock market.
Okay, this is like a pretty open-ended one, but have you been keeping up with the market at all?
Uh, a little bit, not too much. Not really.
Okay. I'm not super into trading, and I don't think you are either. Um, in fact, I sold everything like I think a year and a half ago. So at a good time, right before the market started going down. I just got rid of everything. I was pretty pessimistic, but I like still kind of like kept up with it. And dude, like the prices right now are nuts. So I'll pull up an example. Like if you go to Yahoo Finance and you go to the 5-year chart on, let's see, we'll go to Facebook. Okay, right now, Facebook's price per share is $128. 5 years ago, their price per share was $173, which, like, to me, that sounds crazy. Like, I think if you asked most people at any given time, like, hey, if you could go back 5 years and buy Facebook or Netflix or some massive company, they would be like, yes, like, of course I would go back and buy that 5 years ago. Um,
Yeah,
and and like the market's obviously super pessimistic and going down right now, but my thought is just like 5 years. I don't think Facebook has dropped in value over the past 5 years by 25% whatever it is.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I was I was just listening to a podcast today and they were talking about Facebook being down and one argument for it to go back up is like, I mean, think about Instagram itself, right? Like you're probably opening that whatever 10 times a day, even if Facebook's dying. I mean, Facebook's still around for like the moms, who are on it for all the Facebook groups, but
Yeah,
the case against it is even though they have these really good assets, they're spending all of their money on R&D for the metaverse, which just, you know, I mean that what I don't know, they spent like $5 billion or something on it crazy,
yeah,
right? And they have nothing to show for it yet. And so investors are kind of just like, I don't know, do I really want to take a bet on that? Like that's a pretty big bet. Like, that's down the line in the future, right? Like I don't want to be having my money in that. So I think that's causing it.
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, like I was looking at Shopify. I think I'm gonna invest in Shopify, and I need to look into a little bit more of the details. But pull up a chart of it. It's like 150 to like $25.
No
It's
way.
absolutely insane. Just like take a look. Like I don't know if there was some news or something, or if it's just the overall market that's caused it. But like wow. So,
Dude,
anyways,
that's
the same
crazy.
podcast. These two guys who are in e-commerce interviewed the like one of the head guys at Shopify, and he was basically like, look, like we're playing the long-term game. Like I don't care if the investors, don't think we're gonna make money in 5 years, but like long term, like we are it, we are it. And so there's plenty of counter arguments like why Shopify is not gonna make it, but I mean, dude, like listening to that, they were pretty convincing.
Dude, that's that's the issue is like those CEOs are so convincing. Like it's so tough.
Yeah.
Um, dude, yeah. So it shows at its peak, like in November 2021, it was at $169. And right now it's at 25.50. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Maybe go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think in general right now, I mean, who knows if the market's gonna keep going down, but I think there's whether it's now or like a little bit later, like I think there's gonna be a ton of opportunity to make some money through the market. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty unreal like how low things are right now.
Yeah, yeah. So are you planning to buy in?
No, not yet. Like I think there's still a lot to drop. In fact, my thought is like people seem to still be in a bit of a denial that we're in a recession. Like I still have professors and like this is an example. My professors are still saying like, "Oh, we might be headed into a recession." It's like, no, we are in a recession, and even like technically we're in a recession. Like there's been 2 quarters with a negative GDP. We are 100% in a recession, and I think people just yeah are a bit oblivious and don't want to accept it. And so I think once I all that to say, I think there's still room to go down. So I'm
Okay.
gonna wait a little bit.
Do you listen to the All In podcast?
I have a little bit actually, but I don't listen regularly.
Okay, so Chamath, he's one of the guys in there. He's like a billionaire. He made all of his money from being a part of a couple companies. Like he was early at Facebook, but he's also he's he's very like macroeconomic thinker, right? So
Right?
he occasionally will make these predictions, and he says things like, "Oh, my model, my models," and I don't know if it's his mental models or if he has actual mathematical models that are predicting these things, but anyways, he basically like called the crash like you did, you sold all your stocks, he called that, and so he's made all these little predictions along the way, and he's like, I think it was this week or last week, he was like, I think we're close to the bottom. It's going to bottom out through the beginning of 2023, and then who knows what goes on from there. There's too many
Mm,
variables like the war and all that stuff, but but yeah, so he seems to think that we're pretty close to the bottom, but it also
yeah.
seems to think that there's still more time before it starts going up.
Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting take. Dude, I mean, just in general, like that, the financial markets and like the economy as a whole kind of blows my mind. I think Sam and Sean on My First Million have like touched on that a little bit.
Yeah,
And their example was like JP Morgan is like they basically are like, yeah, we have no idea. Like the top of the top, like the elite have no clue what's gonna happen. And I just think that's crazy. That's crazy.
yeah. And I think this might have been on the same podcast. One, they were talking about some guy who wrote an article, and I'll try to find it. But he's making this argument that basically like, look, like when we had the Great Depression, stock market didn't recover for 10 years. Like it took 10 years for the stock market and the economy to like get back to where it was. And even at that, it was like the war that brought it back. So some people are like, man, like, you know, in the long term, yeah, the S&P 500 is going to go up, but these guys are saying like over the next 10 years, it's probably not going to have the same stock market returns as the last 10 years. And,
Yeah.
you know, the economy might not be doing as hot. And actually, so I want to touch on this. So, did you read my monthly email?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mentioned this book, by Ray Dalio,
Yep.
the Changing World Order, right?
Yeah.
Right. So basically, the idea is, throughout all of history, there's been these periods of upswings and downswings for all the major world powers. So it's like the Dutch Empire, the British Empire, and now the whatever. Now it's the U.S. And so what he actually did using a ton of models, and I haven't gotten too far in the book, but basically, they're 150-year time periods. So
Dude.
it's 75 up, 75 down, and so the U.S. actually reached its peak, um, back around World War II and a little bit after, maybe like let's call it 1960. So it's actually on the downswing right now, and so it's kind of made me think two things, right? Like I take a step back, as in like, okay, the U.S. is on the downswing. One, do I want to be living and working there? And I guess like even if the whole country's on the downswing, you can still be having a job and still work for a company that's doing great, right?
Yep.
People in the UK are still doing well, but it's more of like, do I want to be invested in the broader market of that country? And so
Mhm.
that's where I have no idea what to do. But if the U.S. stock market is not going to be performing as well as some of these experts think, like should I be investing in, I don't know, the German stock market or whatever, the Dutch stock market? I don't know.
Yeah, dude, that's a good point. I'm so glad you brought that up because I've not read that book, but I got into that study. Whatever it's I don't there's a term for it. I don't remember what the name is. And dude, it's like it it feels like it's just a pattern. It's a pattern throughout history. And one of the cool ones that like I've looked through is like the Chinese dynasties, like the rise and fall of like all these different Chinese empires. And the story is like the same throughout. And yeah, like it went through, you know, like back in Roman times. It's the same thing like Roman history, which I think is super fascinating. Um, and yeah, like I think it was some YouTube videos I watched or podcasts or something. They're talking about the same thing, how like the US at its peak, like right after World War II, and like we're you know, like we're kind of headed down. And the one thing that makes me wonder if this pattern is going to stay the same is like we're at a point like in today's world where the entire world's economy is like so intertwined and honestly like pretty dependent on the US. So I just wonder what that looks like because like in history, like in throughout these cycles, it's like an empire will fall and a completely new empire will take over. And I just don't know if it can happen to to that extent. I mean, maybe like I have no idea, but that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, yeah, and the Ray Dalio is making the argument that China's on the up right now. So I guess maybe we'll see what happens with China. I know there's some counter arguments about why China's falling apart and how it's like everyone's overworked, but they're building nuclear power plants and they're like lowering the energy costs like crazy. Like it's going to be like a tenth of what it is right now, which
Yep.
is just crazy. And if we had basically unlimited energy, then I mean, you can pretty much do anything with that. So one of
Totally.
the things that people on the All In podcast like to say is if we'd taken all of the $2 trillion from, you know, the plans back from like this year and the year before, and invested that in like renewable energy sources, nuclear, solar, whatever, then we could be like well ahead of where we are, and so fewer problems, you know. But yeah,
Totally.
yeah. All right. Got
I
anything?
want to one more thing on that because I love this topic. But I think you're right. Like I think China is for sure on the up. And I think there's this like negative connotation with like what China does, like whether it's like high stress environments, like some like overbearing like government policies, like whatever. There's plenty of things that like are criticized. Um,
Yeah.
but I think like one thing that this book, whatever it was, whatever I read or saw about history, like one thing that they touched on is like the different biological factors that lead into these like swings and cycles. And like a couple of the major, like one of the major ones is like stress and how stress
Mm,
actually pushes change and like is a good thing. And like there's a few markers for that. Like a lot of the time it's like war, like overbearing government, and like
Yeah.
strict households. Like those are the few of the things that like lead to like a rising generation and like kind of push the country to the next level. And for me, I feel like, yeah, like I don't know, we all want freedom and we all want to be able to do whatever we want. But like, I don't know, not to say China does it right, but like, is that actually a good thing that we have all this freedom and can do whatever we want? Because I feel like our world kind of sucks right now. At least like America, like look around, like look at the people around us. It's just, so maybe China's doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, again, you're totally right that who knows? The world's changed so much that who knows? The whole world order could be thrown
Yeah.
to.
Yep.
All right, you wanna talk about Rate My Professor?
They're founded in 1999, so they've been around for a while, but they've been sold a couple of times since then. But basically, it's
Oh,
just
really? Okay.
yeah, and not for huge amounts of money. Like it hasn't been, largely publicized, but it's basically just a database of like ratings of professors that students leave. It's actually super helpful. Like I use it every year to help select my classes, and it's pretty accurate. Like if a professor has a 1.0, they're going to suck. And if they have a 5.0, the fact that a lot of students give a teacher a 5.0 is like a big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, but it says, have you heard of Cheddar?
No, I haven't.
No, gosh, I gotta look this up. I think they've touched on it on My First Million. I think this is like the CNBC for kids, like news service. Um,
Oh,
so I think they started by doing like a 24/7 like live broadcast, like news network. You know, I'm talking Cheddar News. Does that ring a bell?
yes. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it
Okay.
does. Yeah.
Okay. So they bought my first, or they bought Rate My Professor, and their whole idea was like transform it into like a glass door kind of business kind of thing.
Okay.
And I go more like that route. Um, Current revenue, like as of last year, was like 3.4 million annually, which is like fine. But okay, so they have 9 million monthly visitors, Rate My Professor, which I feel like one is like pretty high, and like that's
Mm-hmm.
something that could be like expanded and totally crush it with like 9 million monthly college users. And if you go on their website now, like when I use it, it's like the only way that I see they're making money is like ads. And the ads,
Ads. Okay.
yeah, and they're not even like good ads. Like it's not even like I have to watch an ad to look up a professor. It's like there's just random ads, like Google ads, populated on the page. And I think Cheddar acquired in 2018, and it looks like they've done almost nothing with it. And
Really?
my thought is like they could kill it with 9 million monthly visitors. And I mean, I would pay to use Rate My Professor, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the kind of thing where I think like you could make it fun. Like
Yep.
you can make it fun. Like the have the professor get on there and I don't know, reply to comments of kids hating on him or something like I
Yeah,
think there's something that they could do to make it go viral, and all of a
totally.
sudden it's like when people start going on there for fun, just to see what's going on instead of like checking actual professor. I think that would be cool.
Totally. No, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Like they acquired and didn't really do much with it.
This
But
so a better way to learn. All right.
okay.
Okay, so this is kind of two things. So first is I accidentally ran into this idea. I was just reading some articles, but the second is that I'm just been really frustrated with the amount of the amount of extra reading and listening and watching that I have to do in order to learn this little bit of information, right? So if I need to know this, if I need to know 10 units of information, I have to go through like 70 or 80 units of information, right? And then it's like I end up only learning 5 units of information because I'm not sure which units those are. And so
Totally.
I'm sure you understand this. I'm sure almost any school kid who's been through school, understands this. It's just this huge inefficiency, right? Like I just feel like this huge waste of time. And when I think about it, it just makes me frustrated thinking about it,
Yep.
right? You feel the same?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. So there's this idea called enabling environments. And it's basically like the best way to learn is to be in an environment where someone is not telling you, but rather you do something and you learn the experience for yourself. And so let's say, for example, YC. So, YC Combinator, or yeah, Y Combinator, they're teaching you how to do a startup instead of like you just watching having a mentor throw something at you, watching YouTube video, whatever. You're
Yeah.
learning that through that. And I mean, as Sean and Sam always say, right? Like just do, and don't worry about learning, like just go do it and start,
Yep.
right? Okay, so there's this idea called enabling environments, and I found two people on Twitter who kind of are deep into this. So there's one guy called Andy Matushak. He's
Okay.
got 50K followers. Um, but he's got this insanely interesting website that took me, I think I was on here for like 4 hours just
Oh
reading through
my
his
gosh.
website. And at first it was like just incredibly confusing because there's all these links that go to all these other things. And so this kind of brings me to this other idea of, so we have Notion, right? We both use Notion, we
Yep.
understand what it is, but there's basically like, okay, so you have like, let's call it Google Docs, like Apple reminders. Then you have the next level, which is Notion. Okay.
Yep.
And it's great. But then there's the next level, which is like there's these things called Obsidian, and there's one called Roam Research. There's one called there's a Remnote. But the idea is that it's the same idea as Notion, except instead of everything being kind of like like linearly categorized, so everything is under the main, and then like you have, I don't know, business, and then you have like whatever your different businesses, and then from there, the
Yeah.
the idea behind Obsidian is it's like a network. It's like a spider web of everything is interconnected. So let's say you learn about the the stock market crash for the Great Depression, and that's linked to both your interest in economics and history. So then you link that page, and then from here
Mm,
comes two different things, and then maybe this links with something else, right? And so you get this whole spider web, and
yeah.
in the end, because of the way it links, you're ending up with a more coherent thing. So there's nothing's repeated, nothing's in different spaces. It all kind of works together. And so I've been thinking about doing that, but basically that was a kind of a long tangent, but his website kind of reminds me of that. It's like all these things that are links to all the other stuff. So okay, the reason I bring this up is because I think we just need a company who goes out there and spends a bunch of money on research to figure out what is the best way to learn, right? And I don't, maybe someone's done this, but okay, one example of mine is let's tackle the reading. So when you read stuff, there's too much fluff and you don't get the information that you need. We need to simplify this. So okay, let's make a Chrome extension, and on this Chrome extension you can there's two sides to it. So there's people who have the inputs, and people like me and you who just get the output. So
Yep.
let's say I go and I'm an expert on the Great Depression, and I say, oh man, okay, I've looked at these 5 papers, these 5 websites like 20 times in the Great Depression. I know them forward and backwards, and I can give you a summarize them. Like if I tell you what's on them, it's gonna be way shorter than actually reading them. So I
Yep.
write up a little summary. I include all the key points, maybe highlight some things, and essentially then I upload it to this Chrome extension. And you go on there and you're like, you're in your history class, you want to learn about the Great Depression, so you go
Yeah.
in there and you click on the Chrome extension, and boom, easy to read. No, no matter when this paper it was written back in the 1930s, it's easy to read right there for you. Okay.
Yep.
And so you have this output, so you get it, someone else is inputting it, and then let's say we create this business plan where if I put it in, then based on the amount of reads and the amount of likes that it gets, the ratio of like
Yeah.
thumbs up, thumbs down, then I can get paid for it. And
Yeah.
then I don't know how we finance this. Maybe we run ads, maybe you have to pay membership, or
Yeah.
something like that. But that was a lot, and I think there's a lot more I could go on about. But I'm
Yes.
just really fed up with it. Just everything seems so inefficient, and I'm so frustrated. Really am.
Dude, I love it. I love the rant. Yes, I agree. And that's something too that you could just sell to schools, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, that would be awesome. It's like the Chegg. Do you ever use Chegg?
I know what it is, but I haven't used it.
It's like the Chegg model. It's like you get people who like are experts in the subject, and like questions that are really hard for me in finance, they can answer no problem. And so they go through and like answer homework problems or like test questions or whatever it is. It's easy for them, and they make money based on
Yeah.
like likes and shares and comment, whatever. Same model. But dude, yes, that'd be awesome. It's extremely frustrating. Honestly, like the whole school system as a whole is so flawed and so like it's just outdated. Like it just feels like this is probably the exact system that my parents went through, and
Yeah,
which is awful. I mean, come on. Yeah, it's
yeah,
brutal. I love that idea. I think that there needs to be a new way to learn, especially for like, I don't know, especially for younger kids and even like college kids. Like it's just, you're right. Like inefficient is like the best word to describe it. Is I waste so much time on like just BS, like stuff that I don't need to know, and I get, you seem frustrated. I get pretty frustrated too.
yeah. I mean, like just to throw this out there, like let's say government sponsors okay, they sponsor a study and it figures out that okay, people learn math in three main ways, like whatever steps first, like solution first, and like real world problems, whatever. And then you have three different teams. You fund them equally, whatever maybe. And you say, okay, I want you to make videos that explain these concepts and edit it. You know, make it fun, like use super clear wording, right? Be super clear about everything, and make it TikTok style, right? And
Yep.
then the actual in class time. This is for, let's say, high schoolers. The actual in class time is the teacher helping with like specific problems and all this kind of stuff. More of like the college model, you know,
Yep.
where you watch the lecture and then maybe go to the class later and figure it out. But yeah, yeah,
Dude, I agree. I love it. That's awesome. That's a good idea. Um, hey, what's, you got one more on here. We actually have two. It looks
yeah,
like you have two more. Make $1,000 in 24 hours.
yeah. And the other one we already talked about. So make $1,000 in
Yep.
24 hours. This is something that Sam and Sean talked about a while ago on the podcast. I don't know if you remember this, but basically
Yep.
Sean was in his college days at Duke. He was like, you know, working with his buddies, like, man, let's make some money. And I'm probably messing up the story, but he was like, okay. One day they just realized that they've been business planning for like 2 weeks and they hadn't made a single dollar. So he was like, okay, look, today, we're gonna make $1,000. We have 24 hours, we're going to make $1,000. How are we gonna do it? And he figured out like, okay, if we sell these wristbands, then whatever, to all these different people and
Yeah.
customize them, we can make $1,000. So I've been thinking about this, like I think it would be fun to just do this little challenge. But I think I might kind of do this with my friend. This kid in one of my tutorial classes is interested in maybe setting up like an Amazon business or something like that. And I was like, oh hey, like I work in e-commerce, like I have access to people who know a lot about that, and plus I'm part of this Discord group for primarily for sneakers. But literally like 2 weeks ago, they added this channel, just like you want to get started with Amazon FBA and all that stuff. Like here's some basic guides on how to do that. So I was like, we were supposed to hang out this weekend, but he was sick, so we're gonna hang out this weekend and the this coming weekend, and maybe we set something up, but maybe we can kind of do like a make $1,000 in 24 hours challenge.
Dude, I love it. That's awesome. That's a great idea. I know. I thought that was so cool when Sean did that. Like, I think that's genius. Because I think in his case they were like, it was like the sushi business, and I don't think it was like 2 weeks. I think it was like they had spent like a year or maybe even 2 years and had like nothing. Like all they had was like this like binder full of like business plans, whatever that means.
Yeah,
And they were like, how can we make money today?